Hello, my name is Daniel Jeffy, and I'm here to present my paper on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, or the AFCTA. The research question for this paper is, will the African Continental Free Trade Area be effective in providing sustainable development on the African continent by 2050? Some background information on the AFCTA. After World War II, the movement of decolonization swept Africa, after which many African countries sought to unify. In 1963, the Organization of African Unity was established, which was an intergovernmental organization aimed at further integrating the African continent. In 2002, the African Union was established, which was the successor organization to the OAU. The African Continental Free Trade Area was founded in 2019 by the African Union, but the agreement came into effect on January 1st, 2021. The main hypothesis of the paper is that development will improve through the AFCTA because the agreement will increase economic trade, improve governance, and better prepare the continent against climate change. The methodology of this paper is a historical analysis through case study. Regional organizations on the African continent are to be examined as they are examples of integration on the African continent. Variables such as the type of agreements implemented by these organizations, the gross domestic product of member states of these organizations, timetables of these organizations, as well as actors and scales on human rights and corruption will be analyzed in this paper. The East African community will be used as the example for the economic case study to highlight the benefits of regionalization on the African continent. The East African community was reestablished in 1999. The EAC Customs Union has been in force since 2005, and the EAC Common Market has been in force since 2010. What pertains in the common market are free movement of goods, free movement of persons, free movement of labor, right of establishment, right of residence, free movement of services, free movement of capital. The scope of the customs union of the EAC are customs administration on matters concerning trade liberalization, trade-related aspects including the simplification and harmonization of trade documentation, customs regulations and procedures, trade remedies, national and joint institutional arrangements, training facilities and programs on customs and trade, production and exchange of customs and trade statistics and information on the promotion of exports amongst member states. Since both the common market and the customs union have been enforced, trade and economic development have increased in all of the member states except Burundi. Data has shown that this is due to the economic treaties that were signed by the member states, all of which have benefited their respective economies. Both the AFCTA and EAC aim to have liberalized markets and as well aim to implement a customs union. Customs unions are also implemented in all of the regional organizations on the African continent, and they can serve as an example of what a continental or prelude to a continental customs union. Studies have shown that increased integration can improve governance in respective member states. To show this, the case study of the Economic Community of West African States will be used. ECOWAS was formed by the Treaty of Lagos in 1975 and has been one of the more important regional groups on the African continent. The issue of corruption, like many African countries, plagues member states of ECOWAS. However, in 2001, they pledged to stamp out corruption with the Protocol on the Fight Against Corruption. Even though steps are being taken as a regional body to fight corruption, only 3 of the member states in ECOWAS are listed as being the least corrupt in Africa. ECOWAS has taken better strides in protecting fair governance. Coup d'etats and other anti-democratic developments have led to suspension from ECOWAS in many cases, as well as interventions made by the regional body. On average, leaders in ECOWAS are in power for 5.7 years, which is much shorter compared to other subregions on the continent. This is due to the prevalence of democracy amongst ECOWAS states. The collaboration to fight the effects on climate change would be needed by all African nations. The AFCTA has made it a goal to establish sustainable development, which is only possible if climate change is to be tackled. The case study I will use to analyze this effort is a Great Green Wall, which is being led by 11 nations in the African Union who are primarily located in the Sahel region, which will be the most affected area by climate change on the African continent. The goal of the Great Green Wall is to establish a barrier of trees against the Sahara Desert, which is increasingly encroaching into areas previously not touched by the desert. There has been substantial investment made in the plan by most member states of the African Union and as well as of the European Union. Only 16% of the target area have been covered, which is relatively slow as the target date to reverse desertification is 2030. Literature used in this research varied from studies done on regionalism, which I used for my theoretical framework, to works that discuss the history of integration on the African continent. I used a report from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development that covered regional integration in the AAC. I also used certain studies on governance issues to help me better understand how regionalism can impact governance on respective states. Also, reports from the African Union and various news outlets were utilized. Some of the sources for this project are included here on the slide. Throughout conducting research for this project, I found that there is a greater need specifically on a topic of the AFCTA and its possible implications. The AFCTA will be beneficial in providing development because, as the research shows, increased integration amongst African states improves both governance and the member states' respective economies. However, the biggest challenge, as with previous agreements on the African continent, is follow through and sticking with the commitments made through the AFCTA. This has already been seen as Nigeria was already reluctant to sign the AFCTA. However, all member nations of the AU have confirmed and signed the AFCTA.